As I discussed in the lesson, I start with the frames. That way I know the boundaries of my comic. I'm using a nib style digital pen. It almost looks like I could work with a felt tip nib, but I want a little more flavor in my line art. As I ink my design, I think about what the important visual elements of the design are. First and foremost is the expression on Linda's face. She's looking back at the kids. She's in a state of anticipation as she's about to jump through time for the first time. Her hand is on the lever. I put a little starburst around that just so it draws your eye. She's gripping the chair with her other hand. In the foreground, I've taken off the text from the schematic, so now it just looks like some engineering style paperwork. I've added a whole bunch of circuitry and electronic elements to the chair just to give it a little more visual flair. I think in this case an over-busy design works pretty well. In the background, her kids are kind of just rubbery gingerbread men. It's not really important who they are. They just sort of represent a distraction and a reason for her to get away. On the right, we've got the chair again in profile and Linda with a big fat smile on her face. Since I'm drawing her so small, the profile works really well to capture the smile. I start to bring in some more texture and contrast into the other elements of the scene. And last but not least, I'm going to add in the text. For the kids, it's the chaotic looking speech bubbles. I'm going to do the lettering in them with just an outline so they don't draw the eye as much. They're just supposed to be background noise. How about a little ellipsis at the end of her phrase to ease us through the transition? In the second panel, I've left plenty of room for the sigh up in the sky. Notice I've even spaced the letters out a bit more and they're a little more vertical. My inking in both panels is pushing the ideas of chaos and tranquility. So in panel 1, my inking energy is very explosive. There's a lot of jagged lines, and I'm using some of the hatching to pull your eye towards the center of the panel. You notice the little lines across the top and a few down the side really point to the middle of the panel, like in a one-point perspective. That conveys an explosive energy from the panel. Panel 2 has a very different type of energy feel for its inking. It's very horizontal, which is a calming feel. Of course, we've got a horizon line, but I go even further by putting the character near water. That way I can use the ripples from the water to further that idea of tranquility. There's not a lot of motion in this panel. Even the Triceratops looks like he's taking a little nap. The only energy is a bit of dust that's been kicked up after the chair has arrived through the time portal or whatever. So you could call this a moment-to-moment transition, but the moments are very specific. We have the moment right before the travel and the moment right after. I just want to make my characters pop a little better, so I'm going to fill in the background around Linda and her children and add a little bit more shadow and contrast to the second panel. And there we have it, a two-panel story that may or may not, that's debatable, be focusing on the theme of obsession. With any type of assignment like this, I think of the framework of the assignment as just a jumping off point to explore and practice the skills needed to create a comic. So the main takeaway here is to not always stay 100% true to the framework of the topic, but to work through the stages. Think about all your elements. Frame, character, setting, speech bubble. Think about the narrative clarity as you stage your scene and work through your thumbnailing process. Think of the subtle changes in transition, or maybe the broad changes in transition you could use to tell this story. Try to be unique and original and engaging. The world is full of comics. People have been making them for, hundreds of years. What's your interesting take on the passage of time in a story? Inking style can be restrained or experimental. As long as your story is clear to you, you're probably going to be able to pull off a more experimental inking style. But if you're more of a conventional narrative artist, you might want to stay restrained with your inking style. Think of who's reading your comic. Are you trying to entertain, enlighten, provoke, whatever you're trying to do with your story? That can help you decide the moments, the characters, the setting, all the aspects of the comic, and how the reader is going to engage with them. So at this point, we've pretty much reached the end of the class. Let's wrap it up.